Welcome to The Mighty Dragon. I just caught up with indie director Anne Marie Scragg to discuss her latest movie, Firefly, a very emotive, powerful story about the deaf community. What I really appreciate about this interview is Anne Marie's passion about the subjects that she has filmed, and I can see a whole career of telling real people's real stories. Thank you to Anne Marie for this opportunity, and all the best with Firefly. And if you hang around, we have something special at the end of this interview. The mighty little dragon talks to one of the child actors of Firefly, Olivia Pickering. Anne Marie Scragg, thank you so much for joining me on The Mighty Dragon.
Thank you.
How are you today?
Yeah, really good. Very good. Happy it's Friday.
Yes, TFI and all that. Director, writer, actress, is it possible to say what gives you the most creative fulfillment?
Well, I'd use acting very loosely, as in I go round to my local theatre occasionally and make them sort of cringe at my work. But I do think it's important for a director to keep acting, just to get that sense, really. So yeah, I only act in a sort of amateur way. And I think, and directing, I think, is the most hard work, Victoria. I think it's really, really, really tricky and quite a lonely profession. But I would say the most creative for me is writing, because it's just like you are now. It's just there, isn't it, with blank paper and all on your own, and just starting to see things in your imagination that then come out. And then when a writer really sees that come to life, yeah, that's amazing to me, and that's so creative.
Okay, oh, that's so interesting to know. So you're bringing it back down to the writing. That's the most creatively fulfilling. Oh, that's amazing. And how did it all start for you when you started to turn these into productions?
So I've got real imposter syndrome, because I did community arts. So I've done that for about 22 years. So I just did theatre in prisons, in hostels, and, you know, really with marginalised communities. Sometimes I'd get a commission, say, from a theatre to do something with maybe asylum seekers, but it was always with these people with incredible stories. And then I wrote a theatre production called How We Live, which was amazing. Yeah. UK child poverty, and I worked with young people for 18 months, which is really rare, Victoria, for someone. It's usually like you're in there with a month or have a quick chat with them and that's it. And because I did such long research, I felt like I really understood, and I really was in the best place to tell that story. And then I made that film. I wrote it with a guy called Peter Cox, who used to write Brookside, which I've heard is coming back now. Very exciting. And I love Brookie because it's northern and it's very much, you know, real people going through real things and real drama, and, you know, really pioneering. I think they did a storyline about dyslexia that then they sent out loads and loads of help books and stuff. And that's what How We Live came, and it actually came about as a training video for social workers, teachers, council staff. And then I just got this book, Victoria. I was like, how am I going to go back to normal life without filming? And yeah, just absolutely loved it. So since then I've worked on, I did Firefly. I did another film before that called The Wheel. And then I'm just working on one now. So I've definitely got the bug. I'm very, very excited and really enjoying it all.
That's fantastic. And what would you see as the strengths and benefits of indie film?
I think you definitely, like I was saying, focus on those realist, important themes, rather than, you know, you really want to raise awareness. You get cross really about a subject and you want to tell people about it. Whereas more sort of studio films can be more about escapism, which we love them as well. But I like the way that the benefit being that you have that creative freedom a little bit.
Yeah.
You do get people saying to you, come on, we don't want to tell people off. And we definitely don't. We want it to be entertaining, but we certainly want to be able to have that creative freedom to tell a story, which I think indie films do.
Oh, that's wonderful. I totally agree with you. I love indie film, and I just love that personal touch about it. Outside of the budget, what are the challenges of indie film?
I think you feel a massive responsibility, responsibility, especially as a writer, to get it right now. So obviously the last film that I did was about children who are deaf and how people with disabilities can suffer abuse. Before that, it was young people and domestic violence. Before that was UK poverty. If I don't get that right, I'm upsetting a lot of people about the most distressing part of their life sometimes, and they're sharing their stories with me, so I feel that huge responsibility. And in the film, I've got no one to blame. It's all on me. So I think it's a big cross to bear in a lot of ways, which obviously I feel very privileged, but I also feel like the book stops with me with an indie film.
I was looking at Firefly. My friend's daughter stars in Firefly. It was shot in Cornwall. And I can imagine that had its unique set of complications in terms of filming locations. What considerations do you need on filming locations?
It's always that thing again with budget where you're thinking constantly about money. But I loved the fact that with Firefly, we really got in some beautiful seascapes, and because Cornwall, just especially that part of Cornwall right at the bottom, is just stunning, isn't it? It was just, you really felt sort of out on your own. And I think with that in terms of location, we were like, how can we tell this person's story and get in all those aspects? So get in the fishing, get in the surfing, how can we do that? And we luckily found somewhere, Porthleddon, where it was all really, it had everything in that little. So we managed to keep it all, that location, really tight, which is the same for the next one. I think that's been a big learning curve for me, like just keep it really close by. And
did the weather dictate any of the direction of the film?
Unfortunately, we had a lot of stuff with flight paths and stuff like that. There was an RAF. The drone was going to go up one day when we were doing a surfing thing. We couldn't do it. We literally were restricted. So that was annoying. That actually we did really well for the rain. On the days that we expected it, good old British weather telling came through for us, and it's going to rain today. Oh, it's not raining yet. Still not raining. So we loved it. Your friend's daughter was amazing. She just was off on the beach, the joy of a wetsuit. That was a really beautiful day with the surfing scene, because the light just seemed to come out for us, and then she just went sunshine. So went up and down the beach. So then we ended up shooting a lot more, that sort of spontaneity, which was really exciting. And that, I would say, is also amazing about indie film. Like, there's no one to say, oh, no, we've got to shoot that now. I was like, you know what? That child is telling a story by running down that beach, and let's shoot that. So it was, I think it does give you a creative freedom, which is really powerful.
Yes, very interesting. Tell me about Firefly.
So I was asked to do a film about domestic abuse and disabilities, especially with people who are deaf. And I really was, so I did a lot of research and spoke to a lot of people who were just telling me these stories that really surprised me about if they were with their abuser, whether it was intimate partner violence or a parent, or it was, they'd come to somewhere, like in our film, we have it in a hospital, to tell someone what's happened to them. And instead of the hospital or the police or whoever getting an interpreter, sometimes they're brilliant and they do, but a lot of the time they don't. And so there is somebody that's extremely vulnerable, and the only person that can communicate for them is the person that's committed the crime against them. And I just thought, wow, how powerful is that? And I didn't know that. And how many other people don't know that? And so it was a story I wanted to tell. And I wanted to look at how, if you are in an area which is a bit out in the sticks, you don't get help as much. Like when we live in London or Manchester, it's all there for us, and all that support is there. But if you're out in the sticks, even in beautiful Cornwall, you really would be stuck. So the story is then about a wonderful father who is a widow, who then gets into a relationship, and his partner becomes abusive. He goes off to work on an oil rig because she is quite a materialistic woman and she really wants him to earn more money. And when he goes off to work there, there's obviously, she starts to abuse his daughter, and it becomes quite dark quite quickly. So yeah, I think it was an important story to tell. There's a lot of stories in the media about children who have been really abused and even killed by new partners. And I think it's a very, very tricky and difficult subject to talk about. But I think it's important. And I think we really need to look at how we can help people that are suffering abuse if they have a disability, because we're getting better. The police are getting better. There's stuff out there, but I still think it requires a lot of work.
Yes, it's a very important message coming over in Firefly. I just wanted to ask you a few questions about working with child actors. Just one on the side, actually, I thought of as you were talking. When you were casting for this, how do you cast your child actors? What specifically do you look for?
Well, with this film, obviously the child actor had to be deaf.
Yeah.
So they had to be deaf, and they had to look similar to each other, because we have 3 actors all playing Frankie. So that's a big thing. I'm just looking for natural behaviour. Stage school casting anyway. I run a theatre school on a Saturday, and I run it for the community, because I was really lucky, because that was my experience growing up. And where it's not about money and it's not about huge term fees, but it's about children having access to arts, which I think is really, really important. However, I try and really explain to kids from a really young age the difference between acting to camera and on stage. And so sometimes it's really sad, because you'll see someone wonderful, but because they're so big in their performance, it's really hard. So Olivia was just unbelievable, because she was 5 and she just was being herself.
Yeah.
So she just went for it. But she was incredible, but she just was herself. And I think, often when you're casting for anything, people want to say to you, oh, do you want this or do you want this? And you have an image of exactly what you want. So it's not necessarily their acting. And I think it's my job as a director to colour their imagination to get them there. And I'm always very happy to change script and change things around. But I think for a child actor, it's about being natural. And then if they are a little bit stagey, that they can take that direction, so they can bring it down again to get there. But and also just to be a nice kid. Really, really, really hard work. It's boring a lot of the time. There's a lot of dry sandwiches and in between takes. It's really important that they have a good time and that they feel protected. But yeah, I'm always looking for a child that, is happy to do it. I think there's nothing worse than a child that isn't enjoying themselves. I think that's key for me.
What considerations do you have to make when you're filming? As in, are you only allowed a certain amount of time with the child?
Yeah, so obviously you can only film for so many hours for however, on their contract, however old they are. And obviously you've got to have their chaperone there all the time. And they get breaks. And obviously if it was a longer project, then they'd have a tutor as well. Luckily for Firefly, it was only a couple of days with each. That was the beauty of having the different actors, is that we weren't using that actor for so long, because it's just exhausting for a child, isn't it? So that's definitely an important consideration, just that they have everything that they need, and that they're only working for a little bit, and they're not working late or things like that we really work the schedule around them, really.
I was going to ask you, so from How We Live through to Firefly, they're both very powerful, emotive, real stories. Is this where you're going to go in your career?
Depression, misery,
Are you going to keep portraying these types of stories?
I mean, they're the stories I get asked to do. So I think, and I'm interested in women. I mean, if one day I'm interested in Beatles or in but I really care about that, and I really sort of want to tell their stories, because I think it's important, and I think I'm really interested in the truth as well. And I think that I hate the phrase kitchen sink dramas, but I think that people have really interesting stories to tell that happen all the time around us, that don't involve really sort of amazing, glamorous moments in life. And I'm interested in those stories. They're the stories that melt my heart. So they're the ones that I want to tell really as well. Yeah, I think that I always need to be careful as a director that we're not telling people off and that people are still having a good time watching the film. And I think it was really important that I ended this film positively. And I'm glad that I did. And I think that was important for the deaf community as well. But yeah, for me, that's what I care about. I care about getting the truth out there and stuff.
Okay, I just wanted to ask as well, have you any special magical moments from Firefly you'd like to share from behind the scenes?
So there was a wonderful guy who played her granddad, Jim, and he was an ex-police officer and quite a normal bloke, and we didn't get the guy that we wanted to. Schedules changed and things, and then this guy got in touch with us, Jim, who plays Mick. And he was just this, he was a local guy from Cornwall, and he just really cared, and he was so passionate. And so we did this scene where he is reunited, shall we say, without giving too much away, with his granddaughter. And he comes out to meet her on the step, and we hadn't planned any of this. And he just bursts into tears. And me and the AD burst into tears. The DA was like, "What are you doing?" We're like, he said to me, I'm a granddad. And I think that's it, isn't it? When, the actor cares about it as much as you. And then the little girl, Francesca, who's like 10, who he was hugging, she got really emotional. And yeah, it was really special because it's that moment, isn't it, on the film where that everyone understands what's going on from just one image. And yeah, it was really, really, really powerful just when people really love that film. And then I would say the other moment was we had deaf interpreters there who were brilliant. Marilyn was the one that worked with us, and she really looked at interpretation from the acting point of view and used a lot of shorthand. She was brilliant at what she did. And yeah, she got really emotional as well on one scene. And it was just really lovely. And then when she left as well, she just talked about how much she enjoyed it. And that meant a lot, I think, because having that sort of sign off, shall we say, from the deaf community was special.
Oh, lovely. What's coming up next for you?
So the next thing I'm doing, which we've just finished the script edit for, is a film on the trans community and about a trans boy who moves to a new area and just really grappling with growing up. So that one's had a lot of research as well, and it's really powerful, but I'm really excited. And I'm filming, I'm local for that one. I'm filming up north, so that should be nice.
Oh, fantastic. That sounds super interesting. Thank you so much for jumping onto the Mighty Dragon podcast to share your knowledge, experience and memories of Firefly. Thank you so much, Anne Marie. Thank you.
Hi, Mia. Hi, Olivia. How old are you? I'm 5 and I'll be 6 in 2 weeks. My next question is, do you like being an actress? Absolutely love it. I do lambda and singing. Do you like to practice acting at home? So I practice my self-tapes at home with Mummy. What's the name of your film that you are in? Film's called Firefly. Did you like wearing a wetsuit for Firefly? I liked not wearing the fly suit because it was too cold and too tight. Can you show me some sign language? Mia, this is beautiful and this is Granddad. Question is, was there any funny moment? Yes, because I fell into the pool and my boots were full, silly me. Sing me a song from Mary Poppins. Yes, here we go. Let's go fly a kite up to the highest height. Let's go fly a kite and sending, soaring up through the atmosphere, up where the air's clear. Oh, let's go fly a kite. Can you do an impression of your favourite thing? Guess what this is? Rawr! 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 Rawr!
Is it a rhino? Oh no, that's one.
Yeah!
Oh, it's a rhino!
Yeah! Next question is, what's your favourite joke? Why did the chicken cross the road? It's kicked to the other side! Was it hard not to laugh? It was really hard to laugh because I was behind the door. It was really funny to brush my teeth in the camera. Thanks, Mia. Bye.